Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thugs, aka White Boy Voice, aka another racially ambiguous groiper. And I'm here to tell you that Jesus loves you and Christ is King, among many other more terrible things today. And that's going to be really what's going to be defining today. Is there's a lot of stuff going on, as always, right? And a lot of this is going to be involving the escalation of the Iran war. Many things are actually happening happening in the last hour, couple of hours. And it appears that we are getting ready to embark on an amphibious, I'm not going to be able to say that word, an amphibious invasion of Iran, perhaps in a more tactical measure. There's a lot of other conflict building up on other borders. The Houthis announced their participation earlier today. You also have participation announcements from people like Japan, Britain, many other countries joining this attempt to take pressure off of the Strait of Hormuz to allow the shipping lanes to reopen. Many things going on today, and we're going to get into a lot of it. A lot of it also going back to Joe Kent in this Tucker interview. If any of you have saw that last night, that was let's go back. If any of you paid the $6 or $9 or whatever it was to watch the interview, which I thought also was pretty Jewish, if you will, to use the same language as Nick Fuentes, I did find that to be a bit odd, specifically because you would know that everybody wants to watch this interview. And supposedly it's about things the American people need to know about the current war in Iran, but in order for them to know that, they need to pay Tucker $6. So there we go. We do have is Mitchell Black saying another dime to the Nick was right jar. Thank you very much for the super chat. And yes, it's going to be a good bit of what we're going to be talking about is the Joe Kent, the Tucker Carlson, the David Sachs, the JD Vance, the Peter Thiel connection. And many of this does not seem to look good. I think a lot of this is just, as of right now, they are data points. And I think a lot of things going on, obviously, this ropes in things like Tucker Carlson's FAR investigation. This ropes in the PayPal mafia boosting JD Vance, putting a lot of hopes and dreams into JD Vance, as well as saving JD Vance's chances before we get to 2028. As what I've been talking about for the longest time is that at some point, JD Vance is going to have to separate himself from the current administration. You are not going to be able, as a JD Vance, to run on, hey, do you want more of what we just did in the last administration? Because of course not. Nobody wants any wars. And so this has been a concept that many people have been expecting for in the dissident right for some time. I guess the question was more so, how is he going to do it? How is he going to walk and toe this line while, squeaking himself out of the administration while also not, I guess, drawing in the ire of all of those who remain in the MAGA cult? And one point to put there as well, too. Kind of insane that we got the results from North Korea show that Kim Jong-un won the election, something like a 99.93%. And but if you look at the MAGA approval of the Iran war, it's at 100%, which I think is actually a great kind of comparison there, which shows that maybe perhaps Donald Trump has become more of a cult-like figure and MAGA is more of a cult than even there in North Korea. And yes, by the way, Nick's show is free. I know many people might be seeing this as counter signaling. I get that. I understand the back and forth here. I understand the kind of the questions, suspicions between what's going on in these groups. And again, this is kind of what politics is. It's a lot more, it's easy to say there's a uniparty, and I think there's a lot of truth behind when you say what is a uniparty. But at the same time, many factions make up the uniparty. And so there's a lot of nuance to be had in there, and a lot of things really kind of break down. So before we get into everything, make sure you do smash the like button. It helps tremendously. And I do want to say, if you do want to not support YouTube, you can support me at buymeacoffee.com/AtlasThugged. I appreciate everyone who's given support there. It means a lot. Thank you for that. One thing I want to say too is I want to apologize for the lack of videos this month so far. I know many people probably maybe follow, maybe less so for the live streams and more for the videos. This final week through March, I'm going to be cranking them out. This might be, no, I'm going to say it. I had it in my head. I'm going to be cranking YouTube videos like you guys crank your, no, it might be a little too far. Anyways, I plan on pushing out a lot of videos. There's going to be a lot more variety coming out too. And also probably going to get up a second channel, Atlas Thug TV as well, becoming as well too. Already have it set up, but some stuff coming with that. And as always, we can't miss it. Get your own custom light box. Let me turn it on. From Athenor. I have terrible reflection right here. At AthenorLLC.com. They are the sponsor of today's show, as well as the last few shows, and hopefully for the foreseeable future. So huge shout out to Athenor LLC for being unafraid to sponsor real America First voices. So I appreciate that greatly. Thank you. But a couple themes to run through to give you guys a bit of an overview of what we're going to be discussing today. Largely is going to be revolving again, to go back to this, Joe Kent, Tucker Carlson, and this idea of protecting JD Vance. The second theme here, though, is going to be the fact that the war is clearly escalating. Obviously, I think if anybody's paying attention to the news and noise happening on X, you're seeing movement from Lebanon, you're seeing movement from Yemen, you're seeing movement from the Houthis, you're seeing movement from Egypt, which I wasn't even expecting this, but this is going to probably throw another through line in here. And all of it, though, is seemingly stemming from this surprise attack or Trump not knowing attack from Israel striking the energy infrastructure of Iran, which led to Iran having a retaliation strike and also shooting back for the energy infrastructure. The reason being, why would you not do this? Why is this a direct escalation? Is because the permanent increase to energy cost cannot be understated. And so if you are depleting, setting back years worth, similar to like the nuclear weapons, but if you're doing it for oil, you're setting back oil production permanently for, 5 years or maybe even longer than that. That is a lot of investment gone, for one. And also, that's a longer timetable to get gas prices and oil prices and everything else, whether it's LNG and otherwise, to get to a stabilized position. And so once the energy infrastructure starts being hit, that is a direct escalation from before, because previously, everybody who's been, sending bombs and drones to each other has been specifically avoiding these things to avoid the retaliation of such, because if we start all bombing each other's energy infrastructure, we're going to be in for a really rough time. But it seems that's the direction we're going, or has been going. And this is where you got the back and forth of Trump saying, supposedly the report was that Trump was initially in favor of this strike, and then seeing that once Iran had retaliated, he was no longer. He got cold feet, and now he was saying, I had no awareness. I had no idea at all. And so Nick Fuentes last night on his show says that he thinks that this Trump Truth Social post where he says, I had no idea, I wasn't aware of the strike, he thinks that Trump is lying. And I tend to believe that, I tend to honestly lean that direction as well, too. I do think that Trump is lying, and I think it's going to be that's a hard argument to make, to be honest with you. A couple other main themes here for the third one really would be that the Arab allies are pissed. Our Arab allies are fuming. And so there's been a few reports. I've been following Dominic Michael Trippi with some of his reporting coming out of there, but they are pissed. They are extremely pissed. And I'm gonna mess this up, but one of these oil fields, one of these oil energy infrastructures that was hit was bombed. The report came out that it was a $26 billion investment that they made 2 years ago for said energy infrastructure. What happened then is when it was bombed and it was completely destroyed, they now have taken a $20 billion loss on a project they just finished 2 years ago. And so this is one of many, but maybe perhaps one of the bigger ones. And the reason why they're pissed is you have to understand many of these Gulf and Arab countries have significant investment into the United States. And now they're looking at this going, our investment, like these billions of dollars, all these trade deals, what we've been giving to you guys, it means nothing. It means literally nothing. Now the region is unstable. All of our investments falling out. And this is a dangerous kind of path to follow, because now they might be reaching out to other avenues going, well, we will do whatever it takes to just make it stop, to get the region stable. And this is going to be, if it continues, will continue to be a major blow. And so what I would imagine, as we're seeing these amphibious invasion racking up with, I believe it was another 4,000 soldiers as of like 15 minutes ago, is now being assigned to this amphibious unit along with these Marines. For where, how, when, nobody seems to know, but it seems that it is building up. And there's also this idea that we'll be joining them is going to be some format of some of these other militias from these Arab countries. Will we see that? I'm really unsure about that. But the idea here is the escalation is building. And yeah, Nick is vindicated. I've been seeing you guys put that in there. Nick is definitely vindicated, and I think it can't be missed again as well. Charlie Kirk, Epstein, all these other things were also mentioned by Joe Kent, and they do play a role. Although I think to a lesser degree, at least for right now, in the kind of current last 24 to 48 hours of events. And finally, the main theme really is that nobody really has an idea of what's going on. We're kind of guessing of who's lying to who. Where do you take the biases from? When we had the call-in show a couple of days ago on NAV, this was also a point that we brought up here, which was, whose bias do you go with? Should you be trusting, Iranian sources over American sources? And especially when both countries are going to be playing up their biases, right? Both countries are going to be saying, no, we didn't take any losses. No, we didn't get struck, because they're trying to not lose the morality or lose the motivation, the momentum of their people. And if you start showing that you're bleeding a lot, this invokes a lot more. This invokes other people wanting to maybe get their punches in. This also invokes inside of the sentiment of the people, perhaps this idea of, we don't want to participate anymore. And so with Iran, I think that points to like the IRGC, the regime being in power, civil unrest. With the United States, it'd be very similar. Though with the United States, I think more so, if you start showing bleeding from the US, this may invoke other countries, not to throw around the World War III, China and Russia, but perhaps even in smaller avenues, other countries trying to get their bite out of the dog as he's walking away, after the bully's kind of tucked his tail between his legs and he's walking off screen. So that's kind of a general gist of what we're going to be looking at today. A lot of stuff happened at the top of the hour just in the recent, probably 5-6 hours. One of those being that Alex Jones directly posed the question to Mark Levin, asking, are you a Mossad operative, and have you given state secrets to Jonathan Pollard? I kid you not, it blew me away seeing this. But just to give you an idea, a lot to talk about, a lot of disagreement, I'm sure, but let's get started.
Cut straight through, offensively accurate, that's the view.
So I would like to bring your attention to one of these first things. I had to bookmark it. I just caught it literally just shortly before I went live as I was finishing up the outline here, and this blew me away. From Alex Jones, he says, straight up question for you, Mark, and it's funny because he puts it as the Strait of Hormuz. Neither him nor Donald Trump can spell clearly. But he says, what is your rank in Mossad operations? And have you passed secrets to Jonathan Pollard? So I guess he's not even asking him if he is a Mossad agent. Alex Jones is going in with the premise that he is a Mossad operative, and he's just asking, what rank are you? Where are you at? And so what I would like to say is I will take it. I would take whatever I can get from Alex Jones. No need to have an argument where his positioning is, why he's doing all of the backtracking, the nonsense, incoherent rambling. Any positive development is a positive development. And just because you like something from somebody doesn't mean you have to completely endorse them. But I just wanted to bring this to people's attention. Seems like Alex might be trying to get it out from under all of the attacks from him for, capitulating to the New World Order, or the Jewish one at that. So bringing it back to more of the top of the hour items here, per Wall Street Journal, again, this is another, this is where one of the reports are coming from, that the American allies in the Gulf are fuming. And this came from Wall Street Journal and Dominic Michael Trippi. And again, like I mentioned earlier, why are they pissed? Well, they are pissed because their investments into America, or vice versa, man, I don't have that bad of a list, but that's hilarious. Vice versa. And what does it mean? Now they're basically being given the signal, and then seeing it in execution, that no amount of their billions of dollars is actually worthwhile to them, because they will always be the second fiddle to, clearly, Israel. And I think we're seeing a lot of these ministers. I think someone actually already pointed to this in the chat, but a couple ministers have already been pushing this idea, something to the effect of, we know why this war is being waged. And so there's this growing confidence from our Arab allies that they are willing to point the finger at Israel. And this is really going to start backing both Israel itself independently into a corner, but it's also beginning to rack up some instability within the way that they are viewing us in America and those relationships in general. Now, as I had said at the beginning too, Axios came out with reporting, and they're saying that Trump is lying about the strike. This is also what Nick said in his show last night, but I'll bring this up a little bit bigger so you guys can read this better. But this is from DMT, and again, he's saying this is from Axios, but I'll read this directly for you. It says, Trump reportedly not being truthful about the United States having no prior knowledge of Israeli plans to strike Iranian gas fields, initially supporting the action but changing direction after Iran launched retaliatory attacks against Qatari oil infrastructure. And speaking of, I do believe it is one of the Qatari ministers who was pointing the finger at Israel. So it does make sense if they are the ones who are directly affected. It was their energy infrastructure that may be permanently damaged or set them back for years on end. Of course, they're the ones who are going to be a bit more willing to point the finger at the truth, which is again, positive developments, whether big or small. And what I would like to say too, I guess maybe this might go without saying, and I know maybe people may get confused by the way I've kind of talked about this issue so far, going back to Joe Kent, and just in the language of it, in the letter, I do think overall, and I'll go with what Nick had said, Nick gave it the letter like a B or a B+. I think, again, same way I just talked about Alex Jones, you can say things are a positive development. Seeing a tweet have 70 million views in a period of like 8 hours from like 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. is a positive development, because what were those eyes looking at? What were those views looking at? Well, they were looking at a Trump admin official who has been highly touted through all of these different talk channels, walking away saying, we got drugged into this war by Israel. That's a positive development. Now you can, and where I would end it would be there, and I do think there's some disagreements about the way he actually framed the letter in the previous strikes, including Soleimani very specifically, and I'll let Nick kind of handle that. Yeah, he did a good job breaking that down. But just to say, you can take positive developments without saying, you are completely behind or endorsing said individual. Another top of the hour, going away from the Iran strike actually, was that there's a report that came out from Goldman Sachs that I'm sure will be getting talked about by many people in the financial circle, like people like Caleb Plant and others. Not Caleb Plant, forgive me. People call me that all the time. I keep saying his name. It's Caleb Hammer, I think. But it is this unfortunate news story that came out that the AI investment through all of 2025 contributed nothing. I think it was 2025, maybe 2024. But the AI investment contributed nothing to the U.S. economy. And in fact, its actual net result was massive job loss. And I think something to the tune of about, some thousands of jobs. And I think that stands to reason. That kind of makes sense, actually. AI is not earning money. So, of course, there's a direct loss. If AI is doing a job for you, they're not being paid for it, and there's one less person working. Of course, it would result in a direct loss. I guess the hopes are that it results in other benefits in other areas. One thing I think we should take the beginning to start here while we're going through recent information, actually, is that Tucker gave his kind of first public shot at Donald Trump. And this was in a business interview. I think was it with the economic? I actually forget where the actual interview took place at. It was with a woman. Put up on screen for you. I have a clip here from AF Post, actually. It says E. Was it the Economic Times? Am I tripping? You wouldn't think that the Economic Times would run something like this. The Economist. Thank you. Lord forgive me. I had it at the tip of my tongue. I just could not remember what it was. But this is what AF Post says. They say that Tucker Carlson has now taken his first shot at Trump following their split, alleging that Trump has betrayed America first with recent actions against Iran and inaction on domestic policy in an interview with The Economist. And so I think this is where you're going to begin to see, perhaps this is the split. And maybe to describe rather loosely what the idea is here, and it's not even really worth it to play the video, to be honest. It's just what was said in the caption. But the idea being here, and this is kind of in the initial video that Nick had pushed a couple of days ago, or on a stream a couple of days ago, which is going back to the idea of if the theory here is that Tucker Carlson, forgive me, Joe Kent, J.D. Vance, David Sachs, and Peter Thiel are a part of this network, that clearly something is going on between this group. And you connect that idea to the idea that J.D. Vance has to find a way to get out of the administration. He needs to separate himself from the Trump administration to save his chances to be in the running in 2028, and to not be blown out by somebody like a Thomas Massey, who will be running on the referendum of the previous administration. So in there's this idea now growing that, from Nick, and I tend to think there's some credence here, which is, what if Tucker and Joe, and along with people like David Sachs, who had pushed for, not going to the war about a week ago, forgive me. What if the idea is that they're going to take the overall bulk of the flack from MAGA, or from the flack of the administration, to provide cover for J.D. Vance to perhaps waffle his way over to this position and say, you know what? I think we should have listened to Tucker. You know what? I think maybe I think Joe Kent was actually right. Maybe it was a good thing that he did what he did. Because if you paid attention to the statement that J.D. Vance gave, which, and you got to remember this too, when Joe Kent turned his resignation in, he turned it into, I believe it was J.D. Vance's office, if not J.D. Vance directly himself. And it was J.D. Vance who said, make sure you send this up to the correct channels. But what did J.D. Vance actually say? What did J.D. Vance say publicly about Joe Kent? Well, J.D. Vance didn't really say much at all beyond this concept that, well, if you can't, if you're someone who's a part of an administration that's a presidential administration and you can't commit to what that administration wants to do, well then, you should probably part ways. It was like a very weak-handed, very, very weak put down of Joe Kent, whereas everyone else is much more like he's pushing conspiracy theories. Ben Shapiro's like his whole letter was kookery. And speaking of Ben Shapiro, maybe you guys haven't seen this so far. This is also reported by AF Post. But if you search Tucker Carlson on YouTube with a search term, Ben Shapiro is buying and paying for ad space for his videos to appear above any result that would render you Tucker Carlson. A sneaky feature, a very Jewish feature, I would add to that. And we'll get to that. There's some screenshots we can see that show these sponsored videos from Ben Shapiro being pushed on when you search Tucker Carlson on YouTube. And again, this idea here, which is if that's what's going on, which you would think too, what other strategy does J.D. Vance even have? I mean, you would think it would just be retarded for him to just sit there and keep his mouth shut to the end of 28 or to the end of, this administration and then just hope he can walk in. And part of this stems on the fact of when do people start campaigning? Do people start campaigning for the presidency a month before people vote? No. People start campaigning well in advance. And so if we're getting close to 2027, we're already, a quarter of the way through, if not longer, through 2026 right now. We're heading into 2027, and most campaigns start at the beginning of the opening year, leading into that year, the election year. And so J.D. Vance is essentially running out of time. So what's he going to start what's his opening campaign slogan going to be, right? Is he going to get on a space with Elon Musk and Ron DeSantis? No, that was terrible. That was miserable. And so I think that these calculations are being made by this group. And I think this is what we need to be paying attention to. Now, additionally, more top of the hour information as I'm just kind of running through this before we get into some of the more main stories. Forgive me. Phone's being done. Also, make sure you smash the like button. 130 people watching, only 30 likes. Are you guys Jewish? Just kidding. That's a joke. In Minecraft, I forget I'm on YouTube sometimes. Okay, back to where we're at. It's also being reported. Now we have video, and if you guys were in the Discord, I was getting tagged by this earlier this morning by Mr. Biggest Tickets, and thank you for that. But now there's video, so supposedly showing that the American F-35 was shut for the first time, has been hit. And this is a major development because previously all of the other reports were like these American F-15s. I think maybe it was one of them was a 16. And the reason being is because the F-35 outclass obviously the prior classes of these fighter jets. But there's video. And directly after I had actually literally put that in the outline, I saw that there's now another report that perhaps a second American F-35 has been hit. This one supposedly was struck and had to make an emergency landing in the UAE. This is not a good sign. This is not a good sign at all. And this actually perhaps speaks to the fact that while the administration is pushing this idea, showing you the missile frequencies decreasing over the last couple of weeks, and they're pushing this as if Iran is running out of missiles. On the other side of that is this concept that perhaps Iran this entire time has been sending their weakest and most plentiful missiles, saving their heaviest and hardest hitting ones for later down the line. And that would track with the fact of we're 3 weeks in and now they are striking the American F-35s now. And that could also maybe not be a sign more towards the weaponry, but it also could be a sign towards the intelligence that the war has been waging on for such a period of time. They're now learning, they are adapting. And this is to say, the Iranian people are not these retarded, sand people who are just running around screaming like Tusken Raiders in Star Wars. These people had enriched uranium, right? The reason why supposedly the United States is opposing them is because they have the brain power to enrich on a timescale that would threaten the non-proliferation of such weapons. So again, many things to think about here. One of these things that's been floating in here as well is this kind of idea, and I don't know if I've seen an American source corroborate this, but I've been seeing this idea being pushed. Actually, forgive me, an American source did corroborate this. And one major thing I completely forgot to put in the outline that I would push people towards make sure you follow Died Suddenly. It is a documentarian movie kind of publication. I probably have a probably poor way of describing them, but they were one of the people who actually reached out to me. His name's Ezra Smalls, reached out to me personally after I'd produced the Project Esther documentary here about a year ago. I can't remember how long ago I made that. And they're the ones who published Died Suddenly, which was a documentary about COVID. And in addition to that, it was from their publication that was corroborated by Rich Barris and Lauren Witzk that now there's this growing idea, and this very terrifying, that China has actually cracked Americans' B2 message encryption, or their ability to encrypt their signals. And this is terrifying because this is one of the few American carriers of such weapons, of nuclear weapons, the American B2. It is like our, it's our kind of terrifying phoenix that America has. And so this is another idea that as long as this war is waged so openly, so publicly, and now for an extended period, that China's been paying attention. And what have they been doing with their time watching the war? Well, this report would lead you to believe that they have cracked the B2 code. And this is dangerous. Now we're losing intelligence and information to other entities that are like they're not even in the battle, at least, in person, in physical and kinetic. Now they're obviously exchanging intelligence, but this is a terrifying development if true. And one of the other claims that they made from this Died Suddenly publication was this idea that Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Khamenei, has actually fled to Moscow. And the reports and the intelligence that they had that was published by Died Suddenly was that there is interest in the United States trying to assassinate Mojtaba in Russia against Putin's wishes. And this, we're talking about escalation that is like way beyond the pale. That would be escalation that is way beyond just the Iranian war, way beyond the Middle East. This is threatening escalation on a global scale. And I think, if anything, the Strait of Hormuz might actually already have pushed it to that point with the energy infrastructure, if you're talking permanent energy cost. And, and also to make mention of, there's other countries involved here too. I believe there's active reports coming out of Vietnam who are struggling with their oil production, losing massive amounts of this. And so, like we've known before with all of these forever wars, once one domino falls, it tends to have an exceptional domino effect. As other countries get hit and have to take on, and it just becomes a major collapse. And for most people, it results in a bunch of refugees showing up to their front door. Well, Democrats tell you have to accept them. So there's a lot going on. And I think Donnie Brook makes a good point. Forgive me, this is another one of these kind of ideas that's coming out here, which is, the myth of how, I wouldn't even say the myth. I would say that this idea that America is largely untouchable in a lot of different avenues, especially in air superiority, is, again, if we're showing that we're bleeding, if it's on internationally being reported that America is showing some blood on their face, that is a sign that clearly we can be hit, we can be touched. And I can't speak for all of these foreign entities, but it is just a theme here, which is, of course, other countries would look into that and they would go, interesting. The same way the Arab countries look at it in the negative. They look at it in the form of, perhaps we need to find somebody else to help protect us. Perhaps we need to invest in other countries. Perhaps this American investment was a terrible idea because they will always be captive to Israel. And these are things to think about moving forward. And I know the boomers don't care, because the boomers will be dead in a couple of years, and they just literally just will do whatever it takes to go on cruise ships and see the world and tell their children to go die. But for the rest of us who have to actually live on this earth and will have to worry about the future of America, this is actually very meaningful. And, that is part of the split here. And there was another smaller story, which I guess I'll save that for later on. I think it's too important to cover now, but I'll just mention it here. There was a British journalist by the name of Steve Sweeney who was targeted by Israel. And then he did later output a video talking about, what actually occurred. And it was a little terrifying. He was literally 25 feet away. I'm surprised he survived, but he did take damage. It looked like he got hit on both of his arms. And, also wanted to make mention too, the Houthis have now declared they're joining the war against the United States. The Houthis primarily operate out of Yemen. I think it's like the western side of Yemen. This is where the majority of the Houthis kind of operate from, which would be, and again, Yemen sitting on the bottom. They are south of Israel on the southern portion of the Middle East. And what they sit at, they kind of would have ability to operate out of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, I believe is what it's called. Pretty sure that's what it's called, the Gulf of Aden. And so now we have all these other individuals coming out. And one more I want to make sure I don't forget to mention is Egypt's involvement. And I saw this, and I want to just leave it with a grain of salt because I have not been able to confirm or corroborate it, but I want to make sure where's the site at here. Let me grab this here. Yeah, so I wasn't able to corroborate this. It seems like it might come from a random account, but Ryan Matta did comment on it. If you guys are familiar with Ryan Matta, he's down here, right? Big pusher of Candace Owens and whatnot. Take that for what it is. But I'm assuming this is RUMINT, stands for Russian Military Intelligence. I would imagine. But what they're saying is that Egypt told Israel it will guarantee Lebanon's sovereignty. And the Egyptian army is building up along the Sinai. This is another form of escalation. And for many of you who might not have been paying attention, while there is obviously this war being waged against Iran, there is also the conflict occurring on the northern Israel border between Hezbollah and Lebanon. Hezbollah trying to defend Lebanon as much as they can. I believe now, I think the last report I saw was that there's about 800,000 Lebanese who have been displaced externally, meaning they are outside of the country seeking, help, trying to find, figure out what to do. But it's in Iran that they're internally displaced, meaning they're just living at grandma's house or something to that effect. Home got bombed or we lost power in this region, so we had to move over here. So getting into some of the main stuff, and this is where the show is really going to start. Yeah, expect this to get worse. I mean, obviously always pray for the best, but I think expecting things to get worse, I think it's better to be cynical in today's day and age. I think having hopium and copium is just a good way to get yourself, for lack of better words, harmed, killed, or otherwise, otherwise mistakenly voting for the wrong person, if you will. But I have a really bad feeling it definitely is going to get worse. And I do think that we may perhaps see very, very shortly a tactical ground invasion, a tactical amphibious invasion of some kind, with a small force of seemingly around just under 10,000 troops from the United States of America. So, if we make of that what you will. And so I think I kind of talked a good bit about the overview of what's kind of led us to where we are right now. This kind of green lighting of this attack. Nick thinks that he's lying. I would think that he's lying. I think, that was just track with where we are right now. The Pentagon is now also asking, this is another point to be made. The Pentagon is also now asking for $200 billion for the conflict. And I think Nick put it in a great way, but if you track for how much is the war costing per day, it's around like $1.9 billion. So to round it up, $2 billion a day. And this would seem like if you were keeping track or consistent down the line, this would seem like you were asking essentially for a 100-day extension for the war. And much like I had covered about a week or two ago, there was this intelligence being moved to South Florida. I think they were requesting officers and specifically for an operation to be set up that would last 100 days, or I think in their words, until September. So again, more signs pointing to this lasting and drawing itself out. I think one thing to really think about this is how everything is being perceived by the Iranians. And what are their calculations for surviving another 100 days? Can they survive for another 100 days? Do we even know what that may look like? And I think if this is a war of attrition and we continue these kind of decapitation strikes, I think Nick made a good point last night, which is obviously they have this deep bench of all these, IRGC guys, right? It's like they have it down the line. It's like they have the next 10 people. It's like if this guy dies, you go in. If you die, then this guy takes your place. And then if that guy dies, then his son takes his place. And if that guy's son dies, and then it's like his uncle takes his place. And so they have like this very deep bench of who will be taking over roles of leadership. And this has obviously been part of their military plan, their military strategy to have this decentralized and deep roster to continue the mission no matter who's at the head, which is kind of like this, kind of like a very Hydra-like strategy, which is having multiple heads. It doesn't matter how many times you cut them, more will grow, which is ironically, the way the United States has actually described terrorism in the Middle East for the longest time. Although I think ironic because you would have to go the other way around. But in there, what I think I would make the point was, if there is any truth to the reporting that Iran is also losing its munitions to maintain an extended period of war is also dropping, you may also see Iran be pushed to do something that would then escalate the confrontation. Or perhaps maybe this is why you're now seeing the Houthis being involved. Maybe they reached out to the Houthis. And again, the Houthis have been Iranian backed. They provide weapons, training, money, finances. Although the Houthis do operate autonomously, independently, they are another one of these second phase deterrents that Iran has, which is, they have all of their people, they have their standing army, different branches, their air force and whatnot. But they also have the second counter outer ring, which is all of these Iranian militias and proxies that they back with their money and their training. And so, of course, if Iran's being threatened, you would see more of these proxies step in to defend them because, of course, Iran is the person who supports them. I think the other big story that kind of happened yesterday, forgive me, was the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is a sellout. I was actually extremely just like, I wasn't like shocked or surprised by any means, but I was just really more so like I was appalled. I was more so maybe taken aback, probably the better way to describe that. But I was very taken aback. And the reason why, Tulsi Gabbard is a sellout is because she was asked point blank, I'm forgetting his name, he's a Democrat, something, Mr. Ossoff. She was asked point blank about this imminent nuclear threat from Iran. And she essentially said, no joke, she literally essentially says, well, whatever Trump determines is reality. Whatever Trump says is the truth. I don't determine anything here, actually. I don't do anything. And so she completely lied. She is a liar. And why is this big news? Well, Tulsi Gabbard, for the better part of the last 4 years, has been positioned as a non-interventionist. She was seen as a plus addition to the Trump administration as being extra security or like extra backup and reinforcement that this administration would not be starting any new wars. And where's Tulsi Gabbard now, right? She comes along with RFK, right? The big tent, we're bringing everybody in together. And what is Tulsi Gabbard doing? Well, she comes out and she says, I don't even do my job. Trump tells me what the truth is, and that's my answer. So she's towing the line. She's towing the line. And what was great was the individual who was kind of grilling her in this conversation. He fires back and he's like, no, this literally is your job. What are you talking about? Your job as the head here is to actually corroborate, collect, and aggregate your different intelligent sources to be able to make these determinations, to be able to define trends and threats and otherwise. What are you talking about? So that was pretty massive. And Tulsi Gabbard's, I think, political career is over. I think that'll definitely, I think that might shatter a little bit of glass or take some wind out of the sails of Zeb's idea that Tulsi's going to be a part of this Tucker ticket. I can't see Tulsi recovering from this. That's a huge, complete betrayal. Not only just of the people who voted tangentially for her being involved in MAGA, but for her main supporters, who for a lot of people, the main reason why they support her is because she postulated as a non-interventionist, to which we now know is not true. So whether she's just being paid, whether she's compromised or whether she's just a coward, I don't really matter. It doesn't. Who cares? Honestly, irredeemable at this point. Especially when a lot of American lives are on the line, we're not going to worry about that. Now, getting into a bit more of the main story here and going back to Vance, Kent, and Tucker Carlson. Oh, forgive me. Let me grab this here. Where'd it go? Sorry, my notes disappeared. They just jumped off the page. Well, like I said at the beginning, Tucker puts this, the American people need to know for $6. Hey, the American people probably really need to figure this, hey, for $6. And so Tucker Carlson puts the Joe Kent interview behind a paywall. I know some of you said initially, I'm sure it's gone now. Perhaps maybe it was just like a day thing, whatever, that's fine. But it still felt, pretty slimy, to be honest with you, that this would be you would put this initially behind a paywall. But he did. And if anybody was in the Discord, I found somebody who was live reacting to it. I think Meta Prime and somebody else was live reacting to it. So I put that in the Discord yesterday. So hopefully if you guys wanted to watch it without paying for it, you were able to do so. And so Nick covered this, I think, between two shows. And I will say, I think he did a bit of a better job on, well, I hate to say better job. I think he just there was a better class of understanding of the connection on not last night's show, but 2 nights ago. Just, talking about the relationship between Kent and Thiel and David Sachs and Carlson, of some of which we will play on a clip here. And so one thing I want to add here is that Nick is not completely attacking Joe Kent. He's not coming at what's the word? He's not coming at Joe Kent completely as an attack, but he is coming at Kent for the way he kind of assessed previous military interventions. And I won't spend too much time on that. But Nick did say, it did deserve like a B or a B plus, and he thought it was still a positive. But he thought that the separation of the military actions of what we did with Soleimani and this current Iran war just made no sense at all. And so one other thing actually that I haven't mentioned yet so far that many of you would probably also be interested in, and I've seen it being pushed today as well, is that Joe Kent also made mention of the Charlie Kirk investigation, and he like very strongly implied that Israel killed Charlie. So I will play a little short bit of that clip here, but I will give you Nick's take before we do it. And I agree. Nick pushed hard, saying, and I'm going to quote Nick directly here, okay? So don't hold it against me. But Nick said, if you know something, then fucking tell us. You want to be brave, then tell us what you know. And I agree with that. I think that's truth. I wouldn't consider someone to be doing a heroic act if they knew something and they thought it was very, very important to the current ongoing war, but didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to go to jail for violating, their oath or being a criminal whistleblower, if you will. And so I tend to agree with Nick there. And one other point that Nick does make here is he harkens back to when Tucker put his name on the Egyptian plane theory. Do you guys remember this? It's so long ago now, thousands and thousands of years away, right? The Egyptian planes here. I find that to be funny because Tucker put his name on, oh yeah, I know that's real. Candace Owens put her name on, oh, I'm going to make this like digital website or platform or something to that effect. And he was saying, and she was saying, although that way you guys can go through it, still hasn't happened yet. And that was because some random YouTuber who I forget his name, like painstakingly like went and made a video exposing how much of it was actually fake and not true and didn't line up. And he paid to have the data. So he paid for whoever, to get this data or the flight information to actually show you and readdress all of the data points that Candace Owens had put on her channel. So how much can you trust Tucker? I think that really is part of the question here. So Nick feels like there's something going on here, that there's some kind of push being made disingenuously. But if you did miss it, I will go ahead and play the clip here because I do think it is important to hear, just so you know it did happen. And I think it was clipped by LP. Yes, I, Hypocrite, put it in here. And he says, Joe Kent strongly implies that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Here's that clip for you guys to see.
And then, Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way. And we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors, and he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing, in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to have turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
no, I don't think you are.
Because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran.
So many things were said there. And if you haven't been paying attention, this is actually news to me from Uncle House. House, how old is that? Is that like brand new? I wonder if I missed that earlier. We'll get to that in a second, but just to reference the video that we just watched, obviously that is a strong implication of perhaps, Israel, this is just a data point, right? But he also confesses in there that there's some things I can't say, right? There's some things that I can't mention. And I think that's where Nick comes in and he says, if you know something, then say it, right? Don't keep pushing the very vague kind of context. Like I says just now, it looks like pieces are moving pretty roughly. And if that's the case, if he says due to family priorities, I think this is a sign that Tucker, Kent, and the rest have lost, and this Iran war is going to get out of hand. I think that is a strong sign. And if that's the case, I think, again, like I said earlier, when is Vance going to start campaigning? We are in the year of our Lord right now. It is 2026, and we're almost done with March. We are a quarter of the way through this year. He has about 9 months left to find a way to separate from the administration. I don't think it's on the table for him right now. And so this is going to entertain a Marco Rubio run for the presidency. And many, I would imagine, also maybe spoiler candidates from Thomas Massey, as well as Tucker Carlson. That is crazy. Iran war is already out of hand, right? It is a good point. But thank you, Uncle House. Uncle House always with the information. He is his house AI, right? I don't use Grok. I don't use Perplexity. I use House AI. It's the best AI I've ever came across. But thank you for that. That's a kind of a crazy update here. And I think, again, that's going to play into a lot of what I'm going to be talking about here with Joe Kent and the rest of them. So, forgive me, let me get rid of this. I don't know why I clicked on that. So he makes mention, obviously, of the Charlie Kirk investigation. I think that is a huge data point right now. If JD Vance is now already offering that he's walking away, right? Family priorities, I'm considering not running. Maybe I do need to, maybe it's not my time. Maybe, Vance thought about it and he was like, I think Rubio's a great choice. Now they're going to be offering Rubio's like, no, Vance, you run. Like, neither of them wants to be the loser child of this, because that's ultimately what happens is when you run somebody, you burn their capital. You burn their ability. This is the same idea with Hillary Clinton. You can only run her so many times before you really burn her out on the American people. It's like, how many times are you going to run this candidate? She's lost 5 times, right? And so this seems to be this kind of makeup of this idea, which is Republicans may see the writing on the wall in this, and they're going to start pushing each other. You run. No, you run. Hegseth will take the advantage because he's just retarded. He's like, I guess I'll run, guys. They're both like, oh yeah, dude, Hegseth, you should definitely run this time. A lot going on. And it goes obviously much deeper than what you'll ever get from Fox News. I think this is, again, part of the reason why alternate media has been dominating for a hot minute. And so all of this to say that me and many others, Nick, pushing this mainly too, that Joe is a part of this operation, that Joe Kent is also part of this operation. Now, one thing to also keep in mind is that now Joe Kent is, and no, not even now, let's back up, because that's the point that people are messing up. People are saying now Joe Kent is under FBI investigation. But both Fox News, and again, how much do you trust Fox News? How much do you trust the DOJ? But here's the opposing claim. The opposing claim is that Joe Kent was under investigation that predated his resignation. But so now you're getting this opposite push, which the timing of this would really kind of tell us a lot. Because if Joe Kent was under investigation before he resigned, that means that what we might be seeing is that he's trying to get out and under around what's going on, make it look like he's a martyr. So then when people do get wind of him being under FBI investigation, they're going to think it's that the FBI is going after him for statements made in the resignation letter. However, that's coming from, I believe, like some person named Shelley Talbot, who's a White House correspondent. So it's probably coming directly from the DOJ. I don't trust the Department of Justice. But again, like Joe Kent says, it's a data point we got to pay attention to. And I think on the other side of that, I think that would be a bit more forthcoming to what Joe Kent and Tucker's laying out, which is if the investigation didn't happen until after the resignation letter, then I think it does speak to the FBI weaponizing itself, or the DOJ weaponizing itself against anybody who dare speak out against Israel or dare speak the truth towards it. Also, I just noticed Zeb's in the chat. Nice to see you in here. I appreciate that. Nice to see that we have 191 watching. That's awesome. That's crazy because it's just literally been me. I appreciate you guys. Thank you greatly. And make sure you smash the like button again. It does help tremendously. It's free too. Free. We like free around there. And so one thing I would say here is, and again, what's the investigation about? Actually, let me back up a little bit, because what is the investigation about? Why is the FBI investigating Joe Kent? Well, the FBI is investigating Joe Kent, they say, for a potential leak of classified information. Now, maybe perhaps we can see the Tucker Carlson connection in a bit better of light, right? Many things, many statements coming from Tucker Carlson, you go, how do you know this? Like the same way that Zeb talks about Nick sometimes. Wait a minute, hold on. How do you know this? How did you come across this information? Why are insiders talking to you and not these other people? The same way that he made the claim about the Mossad agents being arrested, and I believe both the UAE and Saudi. Perhaps is Joe Kent the person who was giving information to Tucker Carlson? Now perhaps you can see a bit of maybe what this story is actually about, which is this idea that maybe the reason why Tucker Carlson is been so forthcoming and been so open and pushing here is because Joe Kent has been the one who's been wiring him information, keeping Tucker at the very tip top of being wired into what's been going on in the conflict. So, Six Palmer says, I'm unliking the video. That's funny. And Jackson is saying it's only since this letter, though, correct? And that's what's being disputed. So Fox came out, I believe her name is Shelley Tallett. She's a White House correspondent. And then she's saying, she's pushing that her report says the FBI investigation predates the resignation letter, meaning the FBI, they're reporting that the FBI was investigating him prior to him even putting the letter out, which again, I think puts the letter in a bit more of a different kind of a much different light. And I think the timing on that matters very, very much. And so we're going to have to figure this out, right? We're going to need to see more corroboration on these stories. And so perhaps if true, they're attempting to get ahead of this story coming out against Tucker Carlson, right? This FAR investigation that he's supposedly he's in direct contact with Iranians, but not just any Iranian, but like literally the Iranian government. And what would those conversations be for, right? How many people do you know are in contact with government officials from other places? Now, it would make sense as a podcaster if Tucker Carlson had like a good relationship with like some kind of like business mogul in Iran. And he was like just like some rich guy who was able to do connections and send money and coordinate and platform. But it doesn't make sense when you start roping in this idea that he is speaking directly with Iranian officials. And again, this is why the FAR is being invoked so far as what we understand. And so I'm going to jump down here too, because I want to really push into you. Pause. That's a terrible way to say that. I really want to lay out the idea of like, what are some of these other ideas, these positions here of like between Nick and, between Tucker and Kent and Vance and Sachs and Thiel. And the Real Black Groiper says that you spit facts, brother. Love your videos, man. I'll see you good about his voice. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And more videos to come throughout next week. I'm getting back into the grind. I got my own whip. Getting back into the fields, man. Making content easy. Anyways, sorry, I get off track too often. So one of the things I'm going to direct you to, I think this clip is actually probably going to be one of the best ways to lay it out. But before I get to it, Nick had made this claim as well, going back to Tucker Carlson and David Sachs. So he made this claim last night, which I wasn't aware of until he said it, which was that Peter Thiel met with Tucker back in 1992, making him familiar with Peter Thiel for as long as David Sachs has been familiar with Peter Thiel. And remember, David Sachs, he's a part of the PayPal mafia, right? He's in the loop with people like Elon Musk as well. He's a confidant of JD Vance. JD Vance and David Sachs has a close relationship, and they have for a while now. And Tucker Carlson, now it's being reported by Nick. Now, I haven't seen anyone else make this claim, so I would like to see it be pushed. Nick is saying his sources are telling him that Tucker consults with Peter Thiel for every major life decision he makes. What kind of relationship do you think you would have with somebody if you're consulting them for every major life decision they make? I don't even consult my dad on every major life decision I make. I don't even consult my best friends on every. So it must be a very strong relationship, right? And perhaps, and again, as Hook says, being investigated as well too, or invested into as well too. So perhaps money is flowing, and that'd be one other person, right? Perhaps I would run through run my boss, right? These are maybe your ideas I'd run to my boss for. I'd run my boss. Anything, any kind of major professional choice, I'd run by my boss. Is that who this is to Tucker Carlson? Must be in some kind of role. And you think about that, right? If I'm going to somebody for their advice to see what they would have to say about a major life decision, well, what kind of relationship is that? That's mentor and student. Does the teacher seek the student's opinion of what they think? No. The student seeks the teacher's opinion. So I think therein, just in the way that it's being described, I think there is a father-son or, senpai student, hate to use the anime language, but, there's a relationship here, obviously. I love anime, by the way. No more of that. No more of that. We'll say e-girls can use those words. Not here. We'll revoke that immediately, actually. And so more of these connections kind of run through, which is, who's Tucker Carlson's son? Tucker Carlson's son, he says, dude, your weeb is showing. That's funny. I'm a nerd, and I'm not afraid to say that. And here's the thing. Nerds absolutely fuck. That's the point, actually. No, okay. Side point. Forgive me. I shouldn't be cursing as much as I am. I apologize. Forgive me. Donnie, you need to save it for now. We'll argue about this another time, actually. We'll debate this at a later date. But going back to Tucker Carlson, forgive me. Tucker Carlson has a son, right? And his son has also got the same namesake as his uncle, which is Buckley. And Tucker Carlson's son, Buckley, works for who? He works for JD Vance's press office. Interesting. So now we're just with these few data points, we have Tucker Carlson has a relationship with, Peter Thiel, a strong relationship, and his son also works for JD Vance. JD Vance also connected to Peter Thiel because Peter Thiel is the reason why JD Vance is even a part of MAGA. Peter Thiel being the one who literally connected Vance and smoothed over the period from the never Trump, portion of JD Vance's life to then getting his Senate run endorsed by Donald Trump, right? So you have all these connections here. And it doesn't stop there. So I actually fact-checked this, and it's kind of crazy. Because Nick also claimed that Tucker had JD Vance on his Fox show like 45 times. I fact-checked, and it was actually 46. So one more than what Nick had said. So 46 times, Tucker Carlson's Tonight Show between 2018 and 2023 had on JD Vance. But it doesn't just stop there. I dug a little bit deeper. And if you follow the circuit, the show that me and Zeb do together, this is like, that would blow those numbers out of the water. Like if you look, for example, somebody like Julian Dory, right? Julian Dory's been in the kind of just asking questions space for a minute. I don't know much about him, so I won't make any kind of attacks towards him. But Julian Dory hosted John Kiriakou, this whistleblowing CIA agent, who's just, again, he's clearly an op. But John Kiriakou becoming ubiquitous over the last couple of months. Well, how many times was he on Julian Dory's podcast last year? Or in the last year, annually? He was on 4 times. It's like 4 or 5 times, which is significantly less. If you were to separate this on a yearly basis, right, that is essentially 12 times, right? This is essentially 12 times. That means monthly. At that pace, Tucker was having JD on literally once a month. That's an extremely high rate. But as I said, it didn't stop there. You know who also had this similar pace? Joe Kent. Joe Kent, and I looked this up, appeared on Tucker's show 23 times from 2021 to 2023, which matches the exact pacing that JD Vance was on, which was, again, like about once a month. So Tucker is clearly the booster, I would say, of these individuals. I think if we're operating in the theory, in the hypothetical, that this is clearly an operation, this is a tight-knit group of individuals who are clearly, little tech wanting to push for their guy, JD Vance, who, had a bunch of no-show jobs through venture capital, then I think inside of that, you would see that Tucker Carlson's position here is to boost these individuals, right? And going back to what Tucker Carlson said, right? Tucker Carlson told Trump that you need to pick JD Vance as your running mate for assassination insurance. Tucker Carlson also pushing for JD Vance then. Again, boosting this individual who he had on his show a bunch of times. So if you were at least able to pin down one person, it would be that Tucker is clearly boosting these individuals, and there's a definite relationship between them. I think the question more so is going with the information of what House put here from Rerum Novarum, that if JD Vance is potentially not seeking election in 2028, citing familial issues, which is literally a joke, then I think perhaps this maybe is already out of the bag, and this may be indicative of, again, if there's already all this intelligence is flowing to Tucker illegally at that, what kind of classified intel? Nobody seems to really know. But it seems to all point in the direction of what Tucker's been talking about for the last year or so. Then where does this take you? Well, this takes you to the next idea, which is perhaps then they see that the Iran war is actually leaving, it's leaving the harbor, right? It's going to get so far out of hand that perhaps nothing that they can do will give JD Vance a strong enough chance to win in 2028. And I think that's a terrifying concept. Because if, based off of what Nick Fuentes laid out, they were trying to run some kind of small scale operation to get JD Vance in a position to be able to run and separate himself from the Trump administration, put him on a platform, much like many of these stories you guys have seen being planted all over the timeline, but we know they're not true, of JD Vance being the one who's like, maybe we need to be commonsensical about how we do Iran. Maybe we need to not really, positioning himself as being someone alongside Charlie Kirk as being not for the war with Iran. But everything we actually have in paper all contradicts that. The first thing this guy says as soon as he walks in, or, he walks off stage, I think it was with Sean Hannity at the RNC in 2024. JD Vance, what does he say? We got to hit it. We got to strike Iran. We got to hit him hard. We got to hit him fast. And the same thing that comes out of the report with the New York Times. The New York Times, about a month ago, they report when the Iran war started that Trump was weighing a small scale surgical strike, but it was Vance who was pushing for this more full scale operation, hitting them harder and faster. And now JD Vance is trying to get, Tucker and his crew with little tech, the PayPal mafia, to kind of buy him time or buy him an escape route so he can survive and cling to his 2028 chances. Because, let's not forget, before this period, if we go back to just before Trump wins the election, we were sitting at the peak of MAGA. We were sitting with the idea, and you've seen the memes, I'm sure everyone's seen them. What does it say? You can find them still to this day. It's all these images of once we get the 4 years with Trump, then we'll have 8 with Vance, then we'll have 8 with Rubio, then we'll have 8 with Hegseth. And what does it imply? It implies that MAGA was dominating at this point. MAGA's at the peak position here. And it was almost it was just like a fact. It was a given that Vance would essentially just walk in as the heir apparent of MAGA and take over the reins from Donald Trump. Well, all of that's gone now because MAGA is a cult. Everyone's waking up to the idea that MAGA was literally just a scam, if not going to be, its legacy will now be scam that destroyed the American empire. It's a burning dumpster fire. And now JD Vance is going, somebody get me off the Titanic, please. This is very dead. He's waving around, and what we're seeing is Tucker Carlson and Joe Kent with their little helicopter hovering above. They're like, can we get him? Can we get him? Looks like Rerum Novarum, and looks like JD Vance himself has decided perhaps there is no point in even attempting this. And he seems to be making the strategic decision that he's not willing to burn his own capital this time around. And he'll perhaps wait because, again, the minds of the people are fickle. Memory is very, very short term. And so it looks like what we'll have is JD Vance returning in 2032 to potentially rival an actual America First candidate. And I think if you're looking at the polling and the data, I think all signs are pointing to the fact that we will lose in the midterms of 26 to a big blue wave, which is good. These people need to be impeached. And then they'll also lose in 28 as well on the other side of that. That seems to be the feeling and the vibe for most people here. I got a super chat, I think, from Zeb Boykin. He says, push it on me. That's funny. Zeb behind. That's funny. I did say that. But I did say pause. Okay, you have to give me credit. I said pause. That means I can say anything homosexual and it's okay. That's the rule. I can say whatever homosexual thing I want to. It can be as gay. It can be as gay as can be. But if I say pause, we're clean. We're good. That's the concept with pause, actually. Sure, Jen. That's fine. That's funny. I do appreciate the super chat though, brother. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you. And thank you for everybody for being here. Quite honestly, this is probably the most people I've had in a hot minute, to be clear with you. And again, I appreciate it. Just smash the like button. That's the best help you'll give me. So thank you very much for that. Another super chat again in here coming in. This is from Caleb Camarillo. He says, the people who are hearing Joe Kent's name for the first time think he's some American first hero based on the resignation letter. It's all so tiresome. And completely agree. And thank you for the super chat, Caleb. I appreciate that. Massive super chat. And for those who maybe want a better idea of really who Joe Kent is, and the reason why I named the show, or the title of the last episode, Ironic, is exactly, it goes to the point here that Caleb is making, which is, you have to understand that Joe Kent back in 2022 was endorsed, or prior to 2022, I should say, was endorsed by Nick Fuentes, only for Joe Kent to turn around and stab Nick in the back and say that he now disavows and condemns Nick Fuentes' politics, specifically his positions on Israel. Now we find ourselves 3 years later, Joe Kent now taking all of the credit for coming out against Israel. And not to say that he's taking all the credit, but this is clearly, he's being pushed now by many people as like, oh my gosh, look at what he's doing. It's so heroic. It's so great. What he's did is a positive development only in the essence that more people are aware, that more people are very strongly of the belief, in the convicted belief, that what we're seeing is Israel's dragging the United States, that Israel has more sway than what's being led on, that he's giving ammunition to the anti-Semites. That's the positive development out of that. Not that he's a growing figure or any means, as we just described. He's clearly part of this operation, and I lean that way. Maybe you disagree, but that's the positive development. And I think Woe said something to that effect too, from Stone Choir as well. I would heavily recommend you guys check out Stone Choir too. But Woe also said this is a positive development. He said something to the effect of, most days we only travel inches. Some days we grow miles. And I think that was very true, especially when you look at the virality of that post. I mean, it was, again, 70 million views in like 9 hours through working hours in America on the Eastern time zone. I mean, that's incredible. That is massive. It's seismic. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he says or even who Joe is as a person, but it is to say we will take positive developments as we get them, as we continually keep punching the Overton window down and to the right. And Zeb Boykin says, deport Caleb, insert Mexican gibberish. No, listen, we like Caleb around here. Caleb's one of the, we really appreciate Caleb around here. And Zeb thinks he can throw around his Southern dollars. You know, you guys might not know this, but Zeb is funded by Lindsey Graham. No, I'm just messing, dude. That's a complete joke. Don't clip that. That's fake. But I did hear Zeb had a connection to Lindsey Graham. I heard there was somebody else with Lindsey who was on there with Air Force. No, I'm just messing. That is funny though. I appreciate the super chat, brother. Thank you very much. He says, I wish. He'd like, at least I'd get in there. You think I'd get in there? Holy crap. Donnie Brook with a massive super chat. Thank you greatly, brother. I appreciate that. He said, that's hilarious. Donnie Brook says, please note my super chat is larger than Zeb's. That will be all. All right, everyone, please write that down. Everyone who's paying attention, please write it down. Donnie Brook's super chat, it's bigger than Zeb Boykin's. And let me make this a point too. Absolutely huge thank you to Donnie Brook. And again, I want to say this on a personal level. I've had personal communications with Donnie for a long that okay, now we're getting out of hand. Now it's getting out of hand. I appreciate it. That's huge. Okay, don't feel inclined to keep responding back and forth. I appreciate it greatly. But I do want to say on a personal note, Donnie Brook is someone who I've had personal communications with for a long time. And I greatly support you as a friend. And I appreciate you being there every step of the way. And I know you've had your time, taken away from personal events too. Donnie Brook is a huge friend in this space. And I really probably wouldn't have pushed or been driven to keep going had it not been for somebody like Donnie in my corner, to be real with you. So thank you for that. I appreciate you, brother. But we have to put this here because Zeb did what? Zeb just dropped $100. I'm about to go run this. I'm about to go hand this money back. I'm going to go drive to South Carolina and hand Zeb his money back. But I appreciate it greatly, man. Thank you. He says, game, set, match. Yes. Please, guys, please take care of your families. Please. I can get by very humbly. Please use the money to help to support your families. We need to get the birth rate up, right? So we need our money to be getting reinvested into our own families. But I appreciate it greatly. My wife's here in chat. She appreciates it greatly because it all gets funneled back to her. I don't even own a bank account. It's not even in my name. No, I'm just kidding. That's a lie. But obviously I appreciate it greatly, man. And hopefully I'm not getting too red in the face. That's awesome. Thank you. And biggest ticket says, thank you. He says, we get it. That's funny. Biggest says, Atlas, we get it. Donnie built your shed. Calm down. That's funny. It's actually hilarious. And I'm going to grab this one from Jeb. He says, just kidding. Love you guys. And thank you for the support for me and Atlas. And yes, we both appreciate it. And yeah, again, too, for many of you who might not know this, maybe who are just here following me and watching me, Zeb Boykin also hosts his own show. He has a couple of different shows. He's one of the co-founders with me with NAV right here, New American Vision. You can also follow that channel. You might have seen it popped up down here too. That's NAV_creators. Zeb Boykin also has his own channel. He came onto the scene covering the ballistics of Charlie Kirk, had a massive video go viral on that. Then roped in with people like Ian Carroll and Candace Owens. And, me and Zeb might have our disagreements, but Zeb is a brother. And, Zeb has been nothing but kind to me. And we are pushing for the New American Vision. So definitely check out Zeb Boykin if you've not already. I know some people have disagreements between Groyper and non-Groyper. That's fine. We're having the conversations. We're just pushing along. So thank you greatly, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. And that's hilarious. No, I don't want to. That would ruin my career permanently. Actually, if there's a pro-Israel, like if an Israeli flag just dropped a huge super chat in here, I'd just end stream and be like, I can't come back from that. And we're getting kind of away from things. I apologize. We're going to get back to it here in a second. Forgive me. I just want to make sure I am addressing these big super chats as they come in. I would feel bad if I did not spend the time doing that. Joshua VanDerNoord says, can an Albanian get some juice dollars? That's funny. I'm not Albanian, by the way, but that seemingly is sticking. At this point, I'm about to get an Albanian flag and just put it behind me, and we're just going to roll. We're just going to do it. We're just going to see where that takes us. Michael Crawford says, Uncle H would be rolling in his grave if he could see this. That an Albanian's carrying the mission? That an Albanian and a team of Albanians and Mexicans are pushing it on. That's funny. I would hope not. And that is somebody who, of all the talks, right? There's many people who I would like to have a conversation with, but just given the obvious and clear mystique, that would be somebody I would like to actually physically have a conversation with, be able to actually talk to. Dispel the myth, the legend, right? And actually talk to that person, in person. Hitler, obviously. And there's many others I'd put on that list to be real with you, but I think that'd just be somebody who just just to remove the mystique, right? And talk to the individual as a human being. And thank you very much, Christian. Our sponsor here also super chatted in. Appreciate you greatly, brother. He says, at last hugged. I was finally hugged by big super chats, and now I can retire. Now I'm a millionaire. now we're golden and we're doing good. Thank you guys. I appreciate you greatly. And you guys know me. I literally have a hard time taking compliments. Maybe I make it awkward. I try not to be, but I do appreciate it greatly. And I try not to ever, for a second, let you guys feel like if you ever support me, that it goes out the wayside or that I'm not paying attention to it. Nothing like that. I try to be as humble as I possibly can be. And I think perhaps if anything's missing from this space, it is that people are humble. So I appreciate that. And William Main says, keep fighting. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, brother. Became a member. Thank you. And I will do. Definitely. And you will see too, if there's backups here. I've set up the Rumble account and the Telegram and the Discord and stuff too. So if anything does happen to me on YouTube, I'm not stopping. It'll just have to be going on Rumble or going on X or somewhere else as well too, to be real with you. And so that's kind of the direction that we're going with that. And yeah, this community is amazing. Great comment here from Starbeam Knight. The community is amazing. We have, and here's the thing too. Also, you guys have to credit heavily with this too. This is not just my doing. If anything, it's less my doing. More of the doing of people like Donnybrook, like House AI, like Tix Bomber, like Titan, like Splenda. Like these are the moderators who have been in the community for a long time, and Donnybrook for like years on end now at this point. House as well too. House has been with me for a long minute. House has been with me before I even think I had 1,000 subscribers. Titan as well. Tix Bomber, they all come from there. So credit with those guys. Those guys are the ones who have been facilitating a lot of the cleanup in the community, pushing it, being involved, engaging with you guys, being here every single stream. Like those are the guys who you want to thank. Those are the moderators. That's the council. That's who if we put it to a vote, we figure out, are we banning this Wignat? Probably. Yep, he's got to go. Like these are the kind of decisions that are made by these guys. And these are guys that I trust. These are guys who I think they have good heads on their shoulders. And again, part of the reason the community is what it is because they are a representation of that. And, and when I have confidence in people like that, I want the community to reflect that. And so huge shout out to those guys as well. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And Rex says, yeah, I'm getting a payday today. I appreciate that greatly. Don't get me wrong, obviously. But obviously I do it more so because I want my daughter to have a country that she can live in and that I can be satisfied when I die on my deathbed, that I'm not worried to no end of what may happen if I'm no longer in the picture, and so that's kind of, where I've really, a lot of my passion comes from. And it was perfect timing too, because we basically just covered through the majority of what I wanted to cover through the Joe Kent story and Mark Levin. I had much less about the actual escalations of the Iran war over the last couple of days. I did a poor job kind of keeping in contact with, or paying attention to the Rerum Navarm and many other things like that. Oh, forgive me. Have I missed super chats? I have. I'm so sorry. Mr. Mossy, thank you very much. He says, from your favorite Bubby, my Mashugana. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Super chats, big or small. We're not missing a single one. And if I ever miss one, I do go back and I try to reread them. Don't feel bad. Listen, dude. Make sure you're saving your money. Make sure you have money for your own families. If we are to ensure and fight back the browning of America, we need to have children. And that means more than one. That means you brothers need to be popping out 3 to 4 children and not have your in-laws whispering down your ear, you can't afford that. What are we doing? She's pregnant again. None of that. Who cares about that? Have more kids than you can afford, right? And part of this is this idea of, pushing for, having the finances to be able to do this, right? The leveling up to be able to have a bunch of children, to be able to fight the failing birth and replacement rates. But thank you guys greatly. Nativist Friend says, my regular contribution to impoverished Albanians. Thank you. The UN will send you a letter. You should be getting a signed and dated letter from the United Kingdom that'll be thanking you for your service to helping the the refugee crisis. I had to flee from the United Kingdom. My peoples, I was an Albanian refugee who was staying there. I had to leave. My speech was too much. Yeah, he's never going to get on track. You're so right. You're so right. But okay, I wanted to cover through there. I will hit in a few more other stories that I have here as well, too. And Appalachian Goy, nice to see you, brother. Haven't seen you in a hot minute, man. Glad to see you, brother. Yeah, the train is no longer wobbly. Okay, all right, we're resetting, everybody. All right, we're absorbing it. We're resetting, cycling back in. Okay. So going back to some of these other headlines that we have here, I will rip through them, a few of them. You guys may have seen this, but Mark Levin, who has seemingly become Mark Levin, if you didn't realize, right? Donald Trump said the other day, Mark Levin is the figure of MAGA. Like when you think of MAGA, you better be thinking of Mark Levin, the great one, which I've literally never heard uttered in my entire life. And Donald Trump lost aura by even tweeting it. If he says it publicly, that's going to be even worse for him. But he comes out and he says, and many people are referring to Mark Levin as micro. I mean, is there truth to the fact? Like, does he have a micro? Is this real, or is this just like, is it just is he just getting attacked? I don't know. Who cares? He probably does. But, Mark Levin being hoisted by Trump, being girded by Trump as this individual who is the representation of MAGA. And if anyone goes against Mark Levin, well, then you're not MAGA. Then you're not this. Zeb's got to go. Peace out, Zeb. Appreciate you for being here, man. Thank you for coming in for 10 minutes and dropping your entire paycheck off at the Super Chats. I appreciate that greatly. Thank you, boss. Thank you very much, brother. And so, staying on track, Mark Levin, now everyone's calling him Micro. He got into it with Megyn Kelly. He had a big kind of spiral out with Megyn Kelly. I think Megyn Kelly came out looking clean. Not to make a comment on her physical appearance, but she came out and she looked like she did, she fended well for herself. She defended herself pretty well against Mark Levin. And it was I don't know if it was in the initial hours after the letter was sent, pushed by Kent. It might have actually been when it was being pushed that Tucker was going to host Joe Kent. Mark Levin came out and said that he was going to, he's like, if, Joe Kent's not scared, he needs to come on my show and we need to have this interview debate. What's funny is Joe Kent responded like 15 minutes later and he said, yeah, let's go. But what's Mark Levin doing? Mark Levin posts again like a few hours later, like later in the night. And he's like, well, since Joe Kent didn't respond, I guess I'll take that as a sign that he's a coward. And everybody's like, bro, he literally responded to you like minutes after you posted your tweet. Like, what are you talking about? And so now Mark Levin's pushed it to this idea that, he reached out to Kent's people and Kent's people haven't gotten back to him yet. And it's like, dog, he resigned from the administration a day ago. He flew over to Carlson to do an interview. And you think like you're going to get a response during that? Anyways, not to play ball for Joe Kent, but just understand this is where Mark Levin is at. And it is kind of a smaller side story here and funny. And hopefully the name Micro sticks. I think it actually does bother him. And one of the other stories that we do have here that kind of falls in line with this idea that perhaps there's a lot more to this concept of a distraction, that what perhaps is the escalation may be hinging upon this getting the eyes away from not only just the terrible elements from the Epstein files, but the specific element of the Jewish supremacy that we saw over and over again, right? Goyim in abundance, these wasps might be good ones. We saw it all over. But in line of that, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency quietly purchased aliens.gov. Why? Because, like many people are probably going to infer, and rightly so, we're probably getting ready to start entertaining a lot more of this Project Bluebeam, a lot more of this, there's extraterrestrial intelligence, and now we're going to have alien documentaries getting dropped. And to me, I do find it to be a distraction. As a Christian, I view alien entities as more likely to be demons, demonic apparitions, things of this nature, spiritual beings, perhaps remnants of Nephilim. I view things from a much more very hardcore biblical view. I don't really believe in aliens at all. But get ready for that. And one of the funniest things I saw about this, and here's the thing, Ian Carroll's been nothing but nice to me. And I know how the Groypers generally feel about him. I have avoided attacking him. I have held back. But one thing I thought was the most hilarious thing of all time, and I think Beardson tweeted this, and this was hilarious from Beardson, but he quoted the U.S. insider who made the initial report saying that they're aliens.gov. And what did they say? He says, Beardson says, I have a strong idea what next week of Ian Carroll's coverage is going to be. And it's like, okay. That's kind of like the shot that you can that's funny. We're not getting personal attacks, we're just attacking the work and things like that. The thing is I get it. Perhaps, despite what people's opinions are, I have a hard time attacking people who have been nice to me. I typically wait until they start doing something to me, and then it's like, okay, now I'll retaliate. I play the role of Iran, right? It's like, you can punch me as much, no, you can't punch me as much as you want. No, forget that. It's more so like, I'm not going to be the first to strike, but if you strike me, I will strike back. We got the Iranian strategy going on. I built all my bases underground. I have all of these winter soldiers on my team. And another one of these general pushes, though, is this push that Nick and myself included, that it's time for the chickens to come home to roost, and it's time for this administration to be impeached. It's time for Donald Trump, more than anything, for Donald Trump to be impeached. And I do think that Nick made a great argument inside of this, which was this idea that, if Trump makes this statement that he had always thought Joe Kent was bad at security, and you elevate Joe Kent, an individual, to the director of counterterrorism, and you had always thought he was bad at security, at the bare minimum, that's seditious. You put at one of the highest positions in all of the United States government, you put someone who you knew willingly that was bad at their job in that position. So what do you make there? On the other side of it, if Trump is lying and that he put Joe Kent and that Joe Kent is good for the job, well, then that means that what Joe Kent is saying has truth to it, which it does, and neither of those bear out to Trump getting out of this administration not being impeached. On one side, you have sedition. On the other side, you have treason. And no matter which route you pick, I don't care. Impeach the brother. We need to impeach him. And for anything, for literally, even for the most minute of just having the rhetorical win, or like the in essence win, right? Like, it's like perhaps he doesn't go to jail, perhaps this doesn't put a stop to what's going on, but it will be significant. Just like in the same vein that I've always talked about January 6th, and the reason why it pisses me off that we did not go back to reconvene on just how criminal many of the January 6th investigations and the imprisonment of these people was criminal. Well, now it will remain in many of these left-wingers and just normies' lives in generals. It will remain in their head that J6 was this event that the mainstream media published it out to be, which is a bunch of crazy Trump supporters, mega crazy Trump supporters who break down barriers and attack police. The same way I view that, which is in the administration, he needs to be impeached for that to be what is left in history, for that to be what remains in the history books. Not an amalgamous idea of, well, it depends on who you talk to, but know that the United States government impeached Donald Trump for allowing a foreign nation to drag us into a war, into a conflict that for one, had extreme detrimental effects to America's energy and just the overall petrodollar system, that damaged a bunch of its investments and relationships with many other foreign nations. That's what needs to be in the history books. And so for that, even for that reason alone, I would support it. But the only way we're going to get that done is if we get specifically, what was it called? Oh, forgive me. I literally just completely lost it. Forgive me. Oh my gosh. My brain just melted. My brain just literally melted. Am I being blasted by like a microwave ray or something? Is that the tip of my tongue? I'm so sorry. That's such a failure of me. Yeah, stroke. Lord, forgive me. But regardless, just the point being, and the only way we're going to get, that's what I was going to say. The only way we're going to get him to be impeached is if we allow the Democrats to take the House. Let them have the majority. Let them win in the midterms. Let them take over. Let them subpoena, run investigations, scream at the top of their lungs, have all the House hearings, and obviously I'm not going to sit here and enjoy hearing people like Jasmine Crockett or any of these other turban-wearing individuals screaming at the top of their lungs. But I will enjoy the fact that Trump will be getting impeached, and that will be the end of his legacy, because that's what he deserves. So that just to kind of, make mention to that, I've been seeing that growing. There was even a protest that was held outside of, I've got a couple of super chats, forgive me. There's even a protest that was held outside of, I believe, Mar-a-Lago by a bunch of crazy leftists who are like blasting music and like dancing and jumping around too, let's impeach him. Let's arrest him. We got to arrest the guy, and so going even beyond impeachment, they want to see him arrested. They want to see him behind bars. And of course they do. That's how the left thinks. Appalachian Goy, thank you for your super chat. He says, look into Collins' elite CIA regarding aliens. That's interesting. I've not heard that. I feel like I've heard that term before. I have a pen. Collins elite. Of course, the only piece of paper I have is like brown. Okay. I appreciate that. I will add that to the massively growing list of things I should probably look up and know more about, but I appreciate that greatly. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Michael Crawford, with another super chat, he says, I don't know how to feel about all this. I'll wait. Okay. Also, I have to say it seriously. I couldn't even get it out the first time. Michael Crawford's super chat, he says, I don't know how to feel about all this. I'll wait and see what Brandon Tatum has to say before forming my opinion with the monkey emoji. Yes, you are correct. We should wait and see what Officer Talmud has to say. You know what? Honestly, I haven't seen this brother in a hot minute. Can we just take a second? Can I just look and see? I guarantee he's had to have said something so far, right? There's no way this has all gone on and Officer Talmud has not stood up and defended Donald Trump and,
then,
Israel. Let's go find this. Let's go see. Let's go find this. I forgot he was a person. I almost put Talmud, to be honest with you. He called Joe Kent a coward. Oh, brother. Interesting. Oh, it's one of the first things that pops up. Are you kidding me? How does this have 4,000 likes? That's crazy. Also, great super chat, brother. Great super chat. Great super chat. I appreciate that a lot, man. Thank you. So now we're getting funny ones too, dude. Okay, that is a crime against humanity, dude. Please stop doing bright mode. please do dark mode. That's a crime against humanity. We have Tom Foe in chat in here as well. I appreciate it, brother. He says, dude, you're killing with the streams. Also, I can't have an opinion until John Goyle makes a video. You're right. Hey, dude, thank you for reminding me of that, Tom. We're going to watch Officer Talmud, just a snippet, just to see here in a second. But that reminded me, before I forget, Pine Sap made a great video. If anybody hasn't seen this, he's Feels Guy on X, but Pine Sap, I interviewed him not too long ago. Pine Sap made an edit on X, and it said, and it was a clip of like one of the introductions to John Goyle's videos. And it was so funny because it's like him on his phone, and it's like, you know, all these events that John's been a part of. And then like it flashes for just a second, and it's the message that had gotten leaked from Doyle, where he was talking about his affair that he had with Savannah Hernandez. And he's like, bro, like I couldn't even get it up, man. Like that was like maybe the worst performance of my life. It's like, dude, like, thank you. Those are the things that like, that give me hope. They give me faith moving forward. Thank you for the reminder, Tom. And make sure you guys check out Tom Foe's content. He does great with the videos, great with a lot of these kind of, more so set it and forget it videos, more very podcast style, long form videos. I think what's the average rate on, I think Tom's videos, like what, 30 minutes or longer. He seems to have a bit more, maybe a set it and forget it kind of podcast style. Great person to check out. Also check out, he's not commented yet, but Right Wing Coalition is another good brother to also check out too. Especially if I got eyes on me, I will always point you guys to other brothers who are doing good work, especially like if I get clapped, you need to have somebody else to go to. Pause. Clapped by YouTube, not the way you guys immediately envisioned, the way that would actually affect me. But make sure you check out all these brothers. We're taking America back. We're taking names. We are not apologizing for it. And yes, we are all Christian nationalists. Zionists are on the way out. We're taking over. Christ is king. And of course, man, of course, as always, man, Atlas out here impregnating everyone. Well, brother, somebody's got to get the birth rate up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, everybody, this is what you tuned in for. You tuned in to hear Officer Talmud's perspective on Iran. This is actually what I got up in the morning for. You know, I was like actually really depressed. And then I thought about it and I was like, hold on. Officer Tatum may make a video today. And then therein I found it inside of me. I was like, oh no, I'm so back. I'm so back. Just in the hopes that there's an Officer Talmud video that talks about Israel and Iran. And I was like, dude, that is, what else could I need? Okay, not to go too far. Here's Mr. Talmud. Let's take a listen here.
He says, Iran has been after Trump since January of 2020, after he ordered the targeting killing of terrorist Qasem Soleimani. This isn't a new threat. The Secret Service consistently failing to secure Trump is new. We need to figure out exactly why these failures keep happening. So what do you mean that Iran has been after Donald Trump since 2020? What does that mean? If a country is after our president, that is a threat to America. What are you saying? Whose side?
But here's the thing is like, yeah, I actually do speak Ebonics for covering Wigger here. I can speak for the black people. I do have the NPAS certified. I actually have an American Express version. Gold, you can slap it on the table. It kind of makes the metal sound. That is a coming idea, by the way. I really want to sell this. But that is kind of maybe one of the only arguments they do have from this administration to point at Joe, which is like, why were you pushing for Israel support? Why were you pushing to just strike Iran? That actually is a good claim. But the other thing is, listen, dude, the other thing is that the rest of it's all BS, right? And so I'm not going to make you, I'll play a little bit.
What are you on then?
Okay, that was enough. We're good now. I mean, come on, dude.
Whose side are you on? If our country decides to take a military action and kill Qasem Soleimani, which did not lead to a war, which all the cowards out there, both on the right and the left, swear to God we're going to get into a war.
Okay, it already got instantly retarded. It literally got instantly retarded. I instantly went from happy to angry. Now I'm racist again. Just messing. But like, I mean, how retarded is that, right? Like, how insane is this, right? That didn't get us into a war. What are we doing right now? What is America doing right now, Mr. Officer? I thought I muted myself. Forgive me. Are we not at a war right now? Are we? Is this a special operation? Is this a special amphibious operation of nearly 10,000 Marines and Navy sailors? Like, what are we doing here? It's so stupid. It's like, yes, this is part of the reason why Nick had problems with Joe Kent's letter too, because no, the argument is what we did with Soleimani is a part of what has led here. This is part of the broader timeline here. When we talk about World War II, do they just look at the events that happened in the last 3 months? That's retarded. When you're talking about World War II, they go back to like early in the 1900s. They go to like the 1910s, and here's what happened here, and here's the 1920s, and here's what happened here, and here's in the 1930s what happened here. And it's just so stupid. And the reason why Officer Talmud makes these points, the reason why you're going to hear these points from people like Caroline Levitt and many other these knob slobbers that exist in the administration, is because they take advantage of the average person being retarded. And that's what they're taking advantage of. They're taking advantage of the fact that the average person just somehow has a nebulous idea that war is just whatever Trump says it is, or that war has like these very distinct definitions of like, you can only say this was part of the war if it happened within 6 months of the war starting. What? Ask any historian ever any person who's alive right now who covers war and tell him if that's true. Ask him how much does that match up with the way that you guys cover war? No, that is retarded. And if that's all he has, I mean, like, dude, there's literally no point in listening to Officer Talmud. But we knew that. We knew that. Obviously, this was a bit to just make fun of the black Israeli loving, idiot. Uncle Hal says Talmud has 4 million subs, but is only getting 100 views. That's funny. That's funny. I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, this is pretty cool. Average Inju, he says, Alice, I'm making a right-wing commentator tier list soon. I'm including you in the S tier. Spoiler alert. That's sick. That's dope. I appreciate that. I don't know if I deserve S tier, though, to be honest with you. I'm not. Again, listen, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm standing on not even just the shoulders of giants. I'm standing on a pile of skulls of the people who were assassinated, killed, or otherwise, who were here many, many years before me fighting the same fight. And at the same time, you can't go without saying as well, I wouldn't even be myself if I didn't have also Nick being a huge reason and the singular source of a lot of the theory and the hypothetical and the thinking. I mean, that can't go miss. I appreciate it though. Thank you. I try, obviously, I might be a voice talent, and I'm trying to get better at this. And maybe a piece of advice to everyone else too. I think the longer you listen to Nick, just the smarter you get. I think I've climbed IQ points. It's actually helped. As I was living as a wigger, I was dropping my IQ, but then I started listening to Nick and started coming back. I was like, hold on, dude. I haven't been able to have critical thoughts since I started wearing my hat backwards. Now that I wear it forwards all the time, it's like it's coming back to me, dude. I can play baseball again. Like, I can swing my golf club, Okay, no, now we're going too far. I just want to put that point out there. I appreciate that greatly, though. Thank you. I appreciate all the support, truly. I try to be as humble as I possibly can, because I really I do think that matters. Living as a wigger. They'll listen to the Albanian. They are shifty. One day I'm Slav, one day I'm Muslim. Dude. I'm like a shapeshifter. Albanians are worse than Jews. Okay, maybe that is a point. That could be a fair point, to be honest with you. And and I think that's kind of largely covering a lot of things that happened. One thing I think I'll end on, because it's kind of, I'm wrapping up to where I did want to cover for today, is this really blew me out of the water. And I didn't want to lead with this because I felt like it might have gotten out of hand. I might have ranted. You guys know me, I crash out sometimes, especially about, Christianity. So I'll play this and you guys tell me if you've seen this or not. But Netanyahu blasphemed Jesus Christ earlier today, and I can't believe it's not a bigger story. And I want you guys to see this. And not because I think it deserves even being played for a second time, but because I was in such disbelief of this. But it does come from Disclosed TV. From about 3 hours ago. It already has 10 million views, if you guys have not seen this. But Netanyahu literally blasphemed Jesus Christ. I kid you not. So here's this video. I wanted to play it at the end, not towards the beginning. And but right here, the quotation from Netanyahu, and this is from Disclosed TV again. Jesus Christ has no, and this is, I'm going to say this again, because I do not want to be clip saying this. This is coming from the Israeli Prime Minister. Apparently he's alive. A couple of clips came out today. I believe this was his first appearance in like 8 or 9 days. But Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader, the prime minister of Israel, said this about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He said this, quote, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan, because if you are strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good, end quote. That is from Benjamin Netanyahu. And I kid you not, if we were a proper country, and here's the thing, I'm not playing this. It doesn't deserve to be played. That quotation's enough. And if you don't believe me, sure, that's fine. You can go find the video for yourself on Disclosed TV. But here's the point. If we were a proper nation, if we were a proper Christian country, we would have there'd be military on site before that they ended that stupid press conference. And they'd be putting their hands on Benjamin Netanyahu and they say, you say that one more time, we're going to take that as a declaration of war. Keep Jesus Christ's name out of your mouth. If anything, they'd probably tell him to get on his hands and knees and repent before they did something to him. But again, not to say or push or anything like that, but that is an egregious blaspheming, especially coming from the person who is largely dragging us into this war, using American lives, using American capital, using American people, ideas, all of it, infrastructure, period, to wage a war for their greater Israel project that's largely backed by a bunch of people who literally think Jesus was just a rebel who got killed for his troubles, to quote Ben Shapiro. This is where we are. And Christianity has been, since Jesus literally was walking this earth, has been persecuted for being the truth. And this is no different. And if anything, I think what we're seeing now is we are getting into perhaps maybe a bit more of this kind of all-out war. And I think if you guys have been seeing what's like on the timeline, you've been following, even Carrie Prejean Baller, that it's very obvious that a lot of these Zionists are getting a lot more confident. They're getting a lot more active. They're a lot more seemingly willing to debate, although Shabbos Kestenbaum's not answered Joe Enders, which he was willing to debate. Hey, Shabbos Kestenbaum, can you hear me? But this is where we are. And this is what needs to be defended. I mean, tooth and nail. It needs to be defended completely, without a doubt, without any thought behind it, period. Throwing your body at it, who cares? It must be defended. We are not going to allow Zionists to stomp out traditional Christianity. What we're going to do, actually, is we need to find a way to honestly excise it completely from our society. I posed this yesterday from criminalization. If that's the route we have to go to, fine with me. But I'm done. I do not believe in the freedom of religion. I think that it is tantamount to the death of America, to be quite honest with you. And I think we as Christians need to take that seriously. And we need to either heavily impose restrictions on that or ban it completely and criminalize it, whether it's Zionism, Judaism, or Islam. All of it has to go. And like I'd said the last time too, even if your base level, like kind of conclusion, even if you don't want to go so far as to where I'm at, you at least have to acknowledge that America is clearly being used, because it's an open, liberal, Western society. It's being used and exploited and basically being ham-fisted like a puppet as a proxy for these other countries' religions. While we all sit and watch as it's our people, our money, our tax dollars, our system, everything is being used at the behest for people who hate us. That cannot be understated in the slightest. And that that brings me pretty much to the end of what I wanted to cover today. One of the crazy story, I guess like that crazy woman from the Bachelorette got the whole season canceled. You know, I could go deep on women, but we'll keep it above board here. I need more women in the audience. No, I'm just kidding. I literally could care less. Who cares? But that was crazy. I guess like a fight video came out. They're getting ready to roll out the new season of The Bachelorette, and a video comes out that the girl who like all these guys are going to vie for like threw a chair at her daughter or something like that. So like, okay, it is what it is. With that, Christ is King. As always, I appreciate you guys greatly. I cannot understate how much I appreciate all the support, the kind words, the engagement from you guys. I try to do my best to respond and message back and like the post that I'm tagged in. Sometimes I just can't because I'm working, or like I just get I get caught out and or doing an outline, or I'm doing a video, and so I end up getting distracted. But I do appreciate all of it. I do see all of it. I go out of my way to read comments. I go out of my way to respond to people who I recognize, and it means a lot, and I know you guys are real people, which is why it angers me when you see those quotes that are like it's just an internet sentiment, right? Yeah, we did get over 100 likes. That is massive. But more than anything, again, Christ is King. As always, seek first the kingdom of God. You need to use that as your, I would say it's my supreme principle, seeking first the kingdom of God. When I look to think about something, I look to think, how would the Bible have me think about it? How would my church fathers have me think about it? What does Scripture say? What does our good Lord Jesus Christ say about it? And I think before pursuing anything at all, we need to make sure we are maintaining and rehabilitating, and many of us are at different steps, that's okay, but that we are making sure we are spending time in actual deference and belief with Jesus Christ. And I mean that seriously, not just like, we like some posts online that like Crusader posts, that's cool, I get that, but actually reading your Bible, actually grasping concepts, actually engaging with things that you don't understand, reading the study notes in your Bible, not just, flipping past a page because you really didn't understand what was said. All of that. That's what I'm pushing for here too. And with that too, you got to be a community, you got to be a pillar of your community. You need to push to have more children. You need to make yourself a man that's desirable for women to want to have multiple children with you. And there's a lot I could go into, but above all, it is maintaining that relationship with Jesus more than anything, literally more than anything. That cannot be understated. And I fail. I'm imperfect. I will make mistakes, and I can only hope that, by the grace of God, I can not stumble and I can pick myself up and I can continue to push for the will of our Lord Jesus Christ. So with that, deport Kash Patel, deport Pan Bondi, impeach the entire administration. I want to see Donald Trump in another bug shot, but this time one that I'm proud to see him in. And and for the woman, any woman over 150 pounds, you are going to be deported. Any woman between 100 and 150 pounds, this is your 90-day notice to lose the weight, or we're shooting you out of a cannon to Israel. And no, we will not be coming to save you. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys more than likely tomorrow, I would imagine, and expect more videos from me throughout the next week until the end of March. And you guys stay safe. I know it's rough out there. Have hope. Never black pill. Stay positive. Keep fighting. You have to keep fighting. Never give up. Love you guys. I'm rooting for you. I'll see you next time. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord.